Hi fellow creatives, my name is Ashlei Payne. I'm the owner of Tracing Thought Productions, documentary filmmaker and photojournalist, and my work often puts me in really remote locations interviewing indigenous communities. So today I am on the YouTube channel to promote my 5 tips on how to interview someone in a foreign country. So some of these tips may seem obvious to some might not, but they're all important for me to remember before I go to a new country. Tip number 1 is to know the culture, like deep, know the culture. You might need to take your shoes off before you enter into a house, but do you also need to never show the bottom of your bare feet? Because that is a thing I've learned the hard way. So try to make sure you do as much research as possible to make the community, the environment, and the place you're at and the person you're interviewing feel like y'all are best friends and you've known each other for forever. Okay, we have someone else here to help us with tip number 2. This is Scout, and she wants to tell y'all to compensate the person you're interviewing, even if they tell you not to. So often you'll bring money, maybe, or in the States, I would often bake something for someone if I was going to interview them for a documentary. But in a foreign country, you might not have a kitchen, it might be a little more difficult. So a tip that I do to compensate someone is to look up the country's favorite fruit, or the country's flower, or the state's flower. You know, like in Texas, it's bluebonnets. And I would bring them a bouquet, or bring them the fruit basket. And it just helps warm up the scenario. It helps the beginning of the interview feel very comfortable and like your long-lost relative and not a stranger walking into their home or place of work to interview them about really personal questions. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is to translate all of your questions, even if the person speaks fluent English. I think it provides a sense of the fact that you gave the little extra effort to make sure that they understood exactly what you were asking and exactly what you were looking for. Because whether or not the person speaks fluent English shouldn't matter. Their first language is probably the country that you are in, and you should respect that, just like pronouncing their name and their full name perfectly and really get it on cue. Translate all the questions, maybe have them on a piece of paper so they can read them and make sure they know exactly what you were asking. I guess if there was a theme around this video, it would be to prepare yourself for the long haul, which is tip number 4. Prepare yourself to be there forever, to really put in the effort. It takes a lot of time to get to know someone in a foreign country. There might be an unexpected holiday you didn't know about that takes over the entire city and has bands marching down the middle of the street. So you need to be prepared to move your interview day to the next day. Be prepared to move your location. This is definitely common in documentary filmmaking, but be sure you get coffee with the person the day before. You might be visiting a family, you might be staying for dinner, you might get the longest interview of your life that will last 5 hours. So just be prepared for that. If you ask me, it makes them feel like they're not being rushed, and you're gonna get, probably at the very end, the best answers. These weren't in any particular order, but tip number 5 is probably my favorite and something I would like to see people practicing even more than we are, which is hiring inside of the country. If you're on a big budget and you have a lot of money, then you should probably bring some of that money into the country that you're getting a lot of your information from. So something that I do is if I need a translator, I will go to the English schools in the main city that I pass through or the one closest by. I'll stop in and ask to have a meeting with the principal if I have time, or I'll email and research this before I visit this country. And when I'm in that meeting, I'll ask if he has any excelling students who maybe want to be English teachers one day and they're really good at translating. And if they would like to come along and I could compensate them, then that is something that student can put on their resume, that they've been a translator for this production company. And I would have personally loved if someone did that to me when I was in high school or college, so I can imagine it would be the same somewhere else. I've done that in India, Bangladesh, and Kashmir, and it's really gotten me closer with the culture. I honestly learned so much more. So if you're going to outsource anything, try to outsource within the country you're visiting. Give them some credit that they deserve. That's it, guys. I'm really sad actually because I feel like I could talk about this for ages. But if you want to check me out or send me a DM and ask me more questions, my Instagram and my company is Tracing Thought. You can go to tracingthought.com. I have a documentary coming out actually soon in the next year about Greenland and an indigenous community living up north. So if y'all want to support that, check out my website or message me. Thank you guys. It was really fun.